In the Dynasty Season 3 cliffhanger finale, people stand around and talk, men make threats, Joan Collins struts her stuff, and things get hot, hot, hot. Battle of the Network shows. Join Rick Brooks and Mike Kogel as they explore the TV of the 70s and 80s through hand-picked episodes of their favorite and not-so-favorite series.
Hey, welcome to another Battle of the Network shows. I'm Mike. I'm here with Rick, as always.
Hey, everyone.
And today we're going to do our first dive into 80s staple, the primetime soap opera. In this case, we're going to be talking about Dynasty. And I'm just going to go ahead and say I don't know much about Dynasty at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say the things that I know or knew before I watched this episode.
Fair enough.
It's got John Forsythe.
Mm-hmm.
It's got Linda Evans.
Yeah.
It's got Joan Collins.
True.
At some point, it had Emma Samms.
Right.
And Heather Locklear.
Right.
It was a big hit.
Mm-hmm.
It and Dallas were in competition with each other. I think it apparently got more ridiculous as it went on, which I think maybe all of them did.
Yeah.
Had a spin-off called The Colbys, and there were a lot of, shall we call them, fights between women.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about it.
Well, I think that about covers it. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Battle of the Network shows. And no, we can
Come
that's
back next
actually a
time
pretty good base of
for
info.
Mike Explains Dallas.
Yeah, I think you actually hit most of the high points right there. Actually,
Right. And has been being remade right now on the CW.
Yeah, so you were not a fan of Dynasty back in the day. You weren't staying up until 10 o'clock to watch it.
No, I don't think my parents would have allowed me to watch it.
Yeah.
I remember, I feel like Entertainment Tonight every now and then would show, the next day would show the fight.
Yeah.
So I've seen some of those. Clips here and there.
Mm.
You're just aware of it because it was around. But, yeah, I didn't get what the deal was.
Yeah, I wasn't into the whole primetime soap thing.
Right. And so basically there were 4 or 5 of them.
Of the primetime soaps?
Yeah. There's Dynasty, or the ones that, I guess, lasted. There's Dynasty and the Colbys on ABC, and Dallas and Falcon Crest and Knots Landing on CBS.
Yeah, those are the big ones. And
The
I think
NBC
NBC for years tried to come up with one, but it
Yeah.
never stuck. They never really scored with one.
Right.
So it wasn't like it was a huge trend in the sense of, okay, Cosby Show hits and now sitcoms are all over the place.
Right.
Because I think part of this is these are probably expensive to make
Mm-hmm.
and difficult to do. But the huge success of Dallas on CBS inspired, imitators like this.
Yeah.
And so it was more like you had a core group, the ones you just mentioned, that were really, really popular for a while, especially in that 1980s period.
Yeah.
And mega producer Aaron Spelling was
Right.
behind Dynasty.
Yeah, that's a big point. Well, along with Donald S. Kramer, who's involved in the Wonder Woman show and many other shows.
Yes. And I think I was aware of Dynasty. I didn't watch any of the primetime soaps, but it was tough not to be aware of it because it was a big hit, and I think it did become, for 1 year at least, it was the number one show. It was a top 10 hit for several years. But it was tied in, this is during the Reagan years, and it was sort of a symbol of the Reagan 1980s, however you interpret
Right.
that. So it got huge media coverage, maybe even beyond what the number of people that were actually watching it. But it's an iconic 1980s show that is not as well known today, or is not as active today in discussions. And partly it's probably because of the serialized primetime soap nature of it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see it. It's harder. People have rerun it before, but it's hard to just sit down and watch it the way you would,
Right.
like a Magnum PI or something
Yeah.
like that might stick around a little bit more.
And yet that's what we tried to do.
Yes. Well, yeah, and the other thing I would add is those of us, we're sitting here talking about TV from this era, but at the time we were growing up, Dynasty would not be something we'd watch compared to a Magnum PI.
No.
So it had an older demographic,
Yeah.
and was on at 10 o'clock. And it didn't have the critical pedigree that would keep something like a Hill Street Blues in the public eye for years by TV critics.
Right.
I don't see a lot of TV critics waxing nostalgic about Dynasty.
No, I saw one. When the new one premiered, I read a review of that, and of course it talked about the original version, and kind of it seemed to be saying basically the original version found its feet when Joan Collins showed up, and two, just kind of embraced being ridiculous a little bit, or embraced being campy, I guess, and that the new one, for the most part, was taking itself a little too seriously so far. That it wasn't being campy, but that I forget the actress's name, but the actress from Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll had the chops to probably be able to vamp and deliver those kinds of lines.
Right. Well, let's talk about the original, and I think we can be the judge of that, whether it's
okay,
whether the original Dynasty was.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about sort of my idea. I saw some clips. I was trying to figure out something. I asked a friend for some ideas, but
friend, because you never watched the show yourself.
That's
a friend.
I didn't. Yeah. So like there's a YouTube reel of cliffhangers from a number of seasons, and I thought it'd be interesting to choose a season finale. One, to see if we could understand what had happened during the season, and two, if we could kind of guess where it might go after the cliffhanger. And this one has quite the cliffhanger. So this is season 3. It's called The Cabin. This is episode 24, and I don't know the air date. But
it was April 20th, 1983.
Okay.
On ABC, as I believe I mentioned it. It's customary 10 p.m. time slot.
Yeah. The cast this season, I actually wrote these down. John Forsythe as Blake Carrington, Linda Evans as Crystal Carrington, Pamela Sue Martin as Fallon Carrington Colby. And she was the first Fallon, and then later Emma Samms replaced her. I don't know the circumstances behind that. John James as Jeff Colby, Gordon Thompson as Adam Carrington, Kathleen Beller as Kirby Ambers, and I believe that would be Colby by then. I think she and Jeff are married. Jeffrey Scott as Mark Jennings, Jack Coleman as Stephen Carrington, Lee Bergier as Joseph the butler, and Joan Collins as Alexis Colby.
That's the regular cast, and you didn't even mention a few names that show up throughout the episode, too.
We definitely have one we'll be talking about, for sure.
Well, several, yes.
Yeah.
But a big sprawling cast, which is partly why I couldn't necessarily put 6 or 7 of these on a network at the same time.
So unfortunately, no Heather Locklear. I don't know if she was already off the show, or she split time for a while between this and T.J. Hooker.
She was had a semi-regular role. I assume that she was on more than she was, but I think after T.J. Hooker sadly went off the air.
Yeah.
Again, that's something that America still hasn't recovered from. Then she transitioned into becoming a full-timer on Dynasty.
Okay.
But at this point, she was a recurring character, but not a regular, everyday.
I think her character gets mentioned a couple times. Sammy Joe. Yeah, and should note that created by Richard and Esther Shapiro. I don't know anything about them either.
But we should note it nevertheless.
Yes, we should. And
we
want to
did.
give Aaron Spelling more credit than he deserves.
Yeah.
I guess we'll get into what's happening. And, like any soap opera, it's built of a bunch of short scenes, mostly between 2 people, occasionally 3, if they get daring. Weirdly, given that it was a weekly show, there's a whole lot less regurgitation of what had happened than like a daily soap opera would have.
Interesting. It stuck out to me as kind of the opposite experience, actually. I thought it was a little bit easier for me to figure out what was going on because I think within the scenes, they had characters explaining things that I had assumed had showed up in earlier episodes. Had happened in earlier episodes. Yeah. But I could be wrong because I don't know.
I guess it seemed a little subtler about it. Like there are things that got mentioned that I don't know the full details of. Mm-hmm. Like Alexis kept bringing up the scene at the lily pond.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that was one of those fights.
Yeah.
But
it was like one of the infamous cat fights, yes.
Because her earring ended up in the pond or something, but she didn't say, when Crystal and I got in a fight at the lily pond. She just said the thing at the lily pond.
I mean, that was kind of like the big turning point in the show, I think.
Yeah.
You're definitely right that compared to a daily soap opera, there's not quite as much of that. And maybe that's one of the big distinctions is they don't spend half the show recapping what happened the day before, which is something in favor of a primetime soap.
And there was no previously on either.
Yeah.
which, made this dive into it a little more.
Yes, may I peel back the curtain a little bit? You kind of already did, but normally when we cover a show on the podcast, what I'd like to do is usually it's something that we watched a lot back in the day. Maybe we've caught up with it in reruns over the years, or sometimes it's totally new to us. But I'd like to maybe watch even more than the episode we talk about. Just we like to get a little sense of it, I think. Mm-hmm. Not only that, we get, we've talked about our crack research team. Mike, and I don't know how your preparation is, but we'll get like binders of material that we can use or we don't have to.
Right.
We keep it spontaneous on the podcast, but if we need it, we get all kinds of background information. I generally just kind of put it aside, and maybe I'll look up some other things. But I don't go through. It would take weeks to go through the material that was prepared for us.
Right.
In this particular case, as you said, we kind of just wanted to go into it a little bit cold, so I didn't watch any other episodes and didn't really know what was going on. And I think maybe we took a similar approach as far as what happened in the show. It kind of seemed like a conventional plot summary was useless because to me, and this is why I kind of wanted to interject this here as we got started, it was basically just people talking, like a soap opera. Yeah. Like there was very little action until the end, and it was one scene after another of people talking to each other.
Yeah.
So I did my notes. I started to take notes, and then it wound up just being like who was in the scene,
right?
Which is difficult at first because I didn't know what the character names were. As I'm going down through, you see, okay, this person talked to this person talked to this person, and that was the format back then for the primetime soaps. But that's something that Dynasty was no exception.
But I mean they wouldn't always address themselves by name, address each other by name right away.
Correct.
Well, and occasionally I was using the Amazon X-ray feature to find out who was in the cast. I don't know if that's
X-ray feature.
Yeah, that might only be available on the Fire TV, but for a lot of shows, they kind of like the Kindle books will have the X-ray feature. Some of them that'll tell you like what characters are in the book or what characters you can even like the book will even graph how many times what scenes a character. Like if you want to look up Ron Weasley, you can find out all the scenes Ron Weasley's in.
That sounds very chilling.
So the Amazon, sometimes when you do it, it'll actually show you at the bottom of the screen who's in the scene, and if there's a song, it'll tell you the song. In the case of Dynasty, you have to go to a separate thing, and it just shows you everybody that's in the episode or the show.
Does that mean Amazon can see under my clothes when I'm watching TV on Amazon?
Yes.
Does that pose any health risk to the actors that are in Dynasty? Like, if you use that X-ray feature, does it give Fallon some kind of like harmful radiation?
Yeah, that's actually why Emma Samms had to replace Pamela Sue Anderson. She got that, and she got some dizzy spells. I mean, and that was radiation coming backwards in time.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Much to my chagrin, I will just say now that I was a little disappointed that Emma Samms wasn't in this episode because
me too. Yeah.
I didn't watch Dynasty, but I did like Emma Samms.
And how did you, I want to, because I did too, but I don't know. I looked at her credits. I'm like, I don't know how I knew anything about her. Was she on talk shows? Was she on?
Wasn't she also on another soap?
She was on General Hospital, but I didn't watch General Hospital.
Yeah, but
like I just don't know where Battle of the Network Stars, maybe something like that.
Yeah, I think I just remember her turning up on like Entertainment Tonight and just being aware of her like as a glamorous celebrity.
Yeah.
That would show up on some of these things. Maybe she might have had a notable guest appearance on something else. I'll have to look into that.
Right.
I don't know if she actually showed up on something I regularly watched or not, but
yeah. I think maybe she had some guest roles on like LA Law or something. But.
Yes. Plus, I will mention, and this is kind of relevant to this discussion, my household was a People magazine household. So I would have regular access to People magazine, which would be all over Dynasty, Dallas, and the stars of these soaps. Yes. So.
Right. So this one starts out with the Pamela Sue Martin, Fallon, and Jeff having a conversation in the kitchen of the Carrington mansion. And I guess I'll go ahead and they have some connection. They talk about her baby, little Blake. Jeff's married this Kirby, and she's expecting a baby, and they're going to move. And you do get some information. Crystal's not there. Is at the hotel where Fallon works, the La Mirage. Mm-hmm. I never quite got what their relationship was. And much later, someone says that they used to be married. And I'm a little confused by that because I don't know exactly what the Colby thing means and what the Carrington like. So she's the daughter of Joan Collins and John Forsythe's characters.
Yes, Joan Collins was married to. Yes, Alexis was married to Blake, John Forsythe, before Linda Evans. Crystal married Blake.
But Alexis's last name is Colby. So if this Jeff guy is a Colby, I mean, that would mean, unless she also maybe later married a Colby, and that's why her name is Colby?
She did. She married Larry Colby, actually.
Oh, Larry Colby. Oh,
no,
yeah.
No.
Right. Of the Boulder, Colorado Colbys. Well, I think the show's set in Denver, right?
Which I like, yeah.
It
is set in Denver,
which
cool. Is a unique setting. Not that they do a lot of location shooting, but it's something different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're oil. I don't know if we mentioned that, but the Carringtons have made their money in oil.
Right. I did see that was going to be the original title of the show. Oil.
Oil?
Yeah.
Well, that says it all, doesn't it?
Right.
Which is funny because Dallas was about oil, too.
Yeah.
Couldn't they have done some other, like, commodity or natural resource?
You would think so, yeah.
Like natural gas.
Right.
I guess that wouldn't have the same ring to it.
Right. Copper.
Yeah. Well, oil was both the cause of and solution to all of America's problems in the 70s and 80s, right?
That's right.
So you had the big oil booms, but you'd also have the lows, and you had oil shortages. So that's something that is probably worth mentioning to people that don't realize how important oil was. Right now we're kind of taking oil for granted because it's cheaper than it was, and we don't have to worry about gas shortages. But you'd have the shocks in the 70s, and you have inflation and all these kind of oil booms, and that's kind of the thing that these shows would tap into.
Yeah. So I guess my point is, this episode didn't give me enough information on the Colby Carrington thing because it makes it sound like she married her cousin or half brother.
That would not be a total shock.
No, and they seem fine with each other now. You know, they're having a casual conversation about his new wife, and she's just more bummed out that everybody's leaving the house.
Yeah.
And that was basically that.
The opulent Carrington mansion.
Yeah. So we get that, and then I think the next scene is Blake, like, sort of pining for Crystal.
Yes. He's wants to call her, and he's thinking about calling her and asking her to come back, I guess.
Yeah. So I have a John Forsythe question. Real hair or rug?
Wow. I had not even considered that.
This is a new game we're going to be playing soon. Real hair or rug?
I would need further evidence. I didn't have any indication.
Something about it didn't look right.
Really?
Like just around the where the hair met the scalp.
I've never known that.
Yeah.
I always knew him to have a pretty good head of hair, and I've never seen any evidence that it. But I'm gonna have to revisit that. Good question.
A little bit. Maybe it was just the edge of the makeup or something. But
yeah, I just assumed he was a natural silver fox.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Because if it's not, it's well made, well crafted. If it's not real.
But you see some indications that that's something to consider.
Yeah.
Could the Amazon X-ray feature tell you that, or I guess not?
No, not yet.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
That's
maybe
what
if
they need to work
I asked Alexa.
Yeah. Not Alexis.
Not Alexis.
But ask Alexa.
Right. Because Alexis, she might give me an answer, but it might hurt my feelings.
It might be, yes. It would be cutting and probably self-serving.
Yeah. So anyway, he calls the hotel, and then he decides not to get rung through. He's still mad or something. We don't know the details yet.
Yeah. We haven't really been told yet why why Linda Evans has left.
No.
Right, yeah.
And then we have a scene, I think, is it Stephen and Fallon?
Correct.
Yeah. So Stephen is her brother, another Blake Alexis offspring. He's gay. It seems like most of the family knows that at this point. Mm-hmm. And I know this was a big deal at the time.
Yeah, there weren't many characters like that in primetime television.
I believe, I don't know when, but I think 2 different actors played him.
Correct. At least 2 different characters.
And my source told me it was a big deal, like when the second actor's face got revealed. Like maybe it was a plastic surgery, but I don't know which actor we're getting. He's got blonde hair.
Which actor we're getting in this one?
Yeah, we're getting Stephen 1 or Stephen 2?
This is Stephen 2.
Already Stephen 2.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
This is Stephen 2, and I'm not sure why the switch was made, but I was stunned to see who this was.
Oh, you knew this guy?
I recognized him.
Oh.
But do you remember? Do you know what other show he was on more recently?
Jack Coleman.
Looking quite different with shorter hair and
Oh,
glasses.
Heroes.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. He was the horn rim glasses guy. That's right.
Yeah, I had no idea he was on this show.
I knew that at the time when Heroes was on. I remember them mentioning that, and because he hadn't been doing a lot of acting or something. It was a good comeback for him, but I forgot. Yeah. Okay.
So this is the first of many surprises for
Yeah.
me. But Jack Coleman stepped in for Al Corley was his name apparently. But
Right. Huh. And basically, we find out in this scene that he's moved in with his boyfriend.
yes, it's kind of another soap opera convention is just replacing an actor with a different actor
Yeah.
and moving on and coming up
Right.
with some like crazy explanation. So
Yeah.
another way in which there's a bigger budget and it's got the veneer of a bigger production, but not totally getting away from those soap opera roots
Yeah.
of the genre either.
And I don't know if at some point we find out he has a baby named Danny, who seems to be a pawn in a lot of the goings on.
Yes.
I guess all of the Carrington and Colby fortunes rest in this child.
Yeah. It's like
It's
he's a Dalai
MacGuffin.
Lama or something.
Yeah. Not little Blake.
No.
You'd think it would be him, but if little Blake is the result of some sort of incestuous activity, then that could be a problem.
So yeah, Fallon and Steven are talking.
Yeah.
And I guess that's how we learn that there's tension between
Father
Blake and
yeah, the Blake and Steven, yeah. And Fallon is totally she's like, you got to be who you are. So she's totally cool with things and just, still worrying about, no, nobody lives here.
Yeah.
That's her big concern.
Yeah.
This house is too big.
I wouldn't care about that. Got more room to stretch out and do go-kart racing in the halls or whatever.
Right.
Just roll with it.
Yeah.
The servant to
To
resident ratio gets much better.
Yeah. I guess I combined the two Blake scenes, but anyway, the call happened, or maybe there's another scene where he says he's not going to call her. There's like a breakfast scene or something. And then we see Crystal, and she's having breakfast at the La Mirage, and this suave dude with a mustache joins her after a game of tennis.
Yeah.
And I think they were married before.
Yeah, he makes an invitation to her and then assures her that just as friends.
Right.
But come on,
'Cause
guy
they've
with his mustache. You gotta
yeah.
you gotta think there's something going on.
This is Mark Jennings, and later she refers to herself as, she's not Crystal Carrington, not Crystal Jennings, just Crystal. So I don't know if that meant they
Just
were
Crystal.
married, whatever her maiden name is,
Yeah, I don't know, but
Grant or something.
so how would you fit him into the '80s mustache world of Tom Selleck and Lee Horsley?
He's sort of like
I
a
was kind of wondering if he was supposed to be a knockoff
yeah.
Lee Horsley.
Yeah, that sounds about it. He did remind me of Lee Horsley.
Yeah, at first I thought, wait a minute, is that Lee Horsley?
Yeah.
Because he might have shown up on one of those shows eventually. But
I think he did, or he started on one of them.
yeah, maybe
Yeah.
like Falcon Crest, maybe.
Yeah.
This was 1983, so
And other than his hair being kind of long, his mustache seemed a little bit, not quite thin enough, but a little bit old Hollywood.
yeah,
Like
that's a good point.
one of the Falcons or one of those guys.
Oh, like a sort of more debonair than
Yeah.
than rugged.
Right, yeah.
I agree. I got the sense that maybe he wasn't fully committed to the mustache.
Yeah.
So he's definitely a notch below Selleck and Lee
Well, yeah.
Horsley.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah, but still, as soon as I saw him, I thought, well, there's something going on between these two, and I think it was the mustache that made me think that.
Yeah. And we also learned in the scene that Crystal just got divorced. So she didn't just move out. She just divorced Blake.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big deal.
It is kind of a big deal because at first it seems like, well, they just had a tiff and she's going out to crash at the hotel for a couple weeks.
Right.
But, a divorce is kind of like, that's kind of hard to just undo with
Yeah.
by just, packing your bags back and moving back into the mansion.
Right. Yeah. But she's determined to make her own life there in Denver. Whereas Mark was offering, he's like, everyone here is a crook.
Yeah.
Let's get out of here. How did two kids from Ohio get involved in all this?
Yeah. Is that true of Denver? You think that everybody's a crook there? I mean,
I don't think that, but
I didn't like John Elway for years,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't say anything about the whole city of Denver.
no, I wouldn't either. But at least everybody that they got involved with.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're involved with oil tycoons.
Well, okay.
I'm sure if maybe they should just move to Boulder.
Yeah.
There's a very nice alien there.
Yeah, exactly.
A very nice woman, a music store,
You got
pizza place.
You got Larry Colby.
You got Larry Colby.
I think they'd all get along pretty well, actually, now that you
Yeah.
mention it.
More relaxed atmosphere.
Yeah, yeah. That's especially now in Colorado. There's a lot of relaxed atmosphere.
That's true. Yeah. Hopefully the Carringtons got in on that.
Yeah, might well have. You'd think though, Crystal, if she really wanted to make a name for herself, why is she so tied to Denver?
Yeah, she's not from there.
Yeah, she could have just gone to like California or really made a name for herself.
Yeah.
Maybe she's not entirely ready to leave Blake yet.
Right. Or maybe she thinks it's like the big fish in a small pond idea. Denver's not quite as big as like L.A. or New York or Chicago.
Good point.
She could still make something of herself there. If you can make it in Denver, you can make it in Denver.
That's
song,
very
right?
well said. Yeah, that's true. I remember that being an old saying.
I think John Denver sang that
Yeah,
song.
he did.
Yeah. Denver, Denver by John Denver.
That was a classic.
Oh,
that
yeah.
really was a classic.
Yeah. Oh, we also find out that Mark has some sort of score to settle with Alexis, who we haven't seen yet. And this is, I would say this is the running theme of this episode.
How's that?
Guys having a score to settle with Alexis.
Yeah, a lot of people have some grudges with her, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's a troublemaker.
And then we finally get her in a scene in the office of one of the companies. Apparently, the Carrington Company and the Colby Co. Oil Co. We saw a sign for that, and something about that really made
Colby Co. Oil
tickled
Co.
me. Colby Co. Oil Co.
It doesn't exactly roll off the tongue.
Right. So is it a company?
Yeah.
They and the Carringtons are sort of involved and entwined, and of course she's trying to get her hooks in the whole thing, and she wants them to merge oil companies to take advantage of some such thing.
Yeah, probably something is going to be leveraged, and there's going to be some kind of synergy, and there's some oil business talk.
She's very sassy, but she has a chart, and she doesn't have a chart.
The PowerPoint presentation.
I wish she had had a chart.
Yeah.
A pointer.
Joan Collins doing like a 5-minute PowerPoint presentation.
Right. As soon as she shows up, the energy, I think, changed a lot, like in a positive way.
Yeah, and I think there's a good dynamic between those two because John Forsythe is more laid back and more of a cooler type TV personality, whereas she is more dynamic and aggressive.
Right. Although he's kind of seething throughout this episode. Things are not good for him.
A lot simmering. Yes, he's troubled by many things, including people speculating as to whether he's wearing a piece.
Right.
That's something he's got to constantly, I can be the CEO of a major oil corporation and I still can't get a convincing look of head of hair.
Right. If this were the Dynasty daily comic strip, that would be his thought balloon. Stop thinking I have a piece.
The Dynasty daily comic strip. Yeah, we need IDW to put out to put that in a set of hardcovers.
They should have done it. That would have been great.
Yeah, the Dynasty comics. Get some like veteran 1970s comic illustrator to kind of slum it a little bit and do a comic strip.
Yeah, and then like in the Sunday, that's where you'd have the fights.
Yeah, exactly. Like a big color fight scene.
Yeah, and then like the next day it would say, in the lily pond.
Yeah.
Then you'd see like the end of the fight.
Yeah. It would be. I'm sure it would be gorgeously rendered strip.
Oh yeah.
There's not a whole lot of difference between some of those, daily comic strips and daily soap operas. So
no,
I'd say why not?
Yeah, missed opportunity.
Indeed.
Yeah, if only we'd been adults and thought of that and had some power back then.
Yeah, if only. We were so close, so close to fulfilling all those conditions, but not quite.
The big takeaway I think from this is that she's scheming.
That's for sure.
I think there was a shot of like she's in she leaves his office and she's out in the lobby. Just a shot of like. Thinking, and you just know she's up to no good. Yeah,
she's clearly the lead heel on the show.
Yeah,
already, and I think she came on board the second season.
Yeah,
and
she might have come on at the end of the first season.
Okay, the end of the first season.
I'm not sure.
So she was not a part of the core cast when it started, and then quickly became like the breakout star, as you mentioned, after joining.
Right. And I guess part of the idea is that Crystal is a good deal younger than Blake, and Alexis seems to be in between their ages.
Yeah, I think that's...
Based on the actor ages, I think that's...
Yeah.
Yep. And Crystal was, maybe you mentioned the older demographic. I mean, she's in her 40s, or the actor Linda Evans was already. Yeah. John Forsythe was like in his 60s.
Mm-hmm. And Joan Collins, I think, was pretty much right in the middle.
Yeah.
I think like in her late 40s, early 50s, so...
Yeah, she's got a lot to bring to the show, I think. And then after that, we get a scene somewhere in one of the offices Again, I'm not sure what, if they're all in the same building or what, but I guess it would definitely be at Colby Co. Oil Co. because her son, the third sibling, Adam, and Steven are having a conversation. And it seems like Adam is not a good dude.
No, there's something shady about him, I think.
Yeah, he's giving Steven a hard time, maybe about being gay, about whoever Claudia Blaisdell is.
Yeah.
Steven's going to go visit Claudia Blaisdell at a High Meadow Sanitarium.
Adam just has a generally sour disposition, it seems like.
Yes. And Steven leaves upset, and then right after that, Alexis shows up, I think. Or is that later?
Steven leaves or Adam leaves, and then...
Or Adam...
Because Alexis is talking to Steven.
Oh, right.
Or no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You had it right the first time. Alexis talks to Adam. Steven left.
Right. And
Adam's talking
Adam
about the
uses
tension.
a slur.
Well, she says it right.
She says it right. She says that's what he's thinking, yeah.
Yeah, because they said they didn't... She's
Or
like,
did
what
you call
did
him
you call him? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Which was a little
the
surprising.
queen mother of all homosexual slurs. She just kind of throws it out there, which, again, to our sensibilities today, it's a little jarring to hear her just say it casually, like,
I think it was probably jarring then.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that was a word thrown around on TV a lot.
No, probably not outside of pro wrestling. Probably not.
Mr. Roper wasn't calling Jack that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Basically, she says she's going to change her will and give the book of it to Steve until Adam shapes up. So now this is like the third guy who's got a beef with her.
All right. And I enjoyed that too because he basically says he thinks she's bluffing and tries to call her on it, and she calls up her lawyer, right, and starts make an appointment for tomorrow morning. And she's kind of looking at him like, oh yeah, well I'm going to do it tomorrow.
Yeah. Now of course she could have done the old pretend to call.
Right. But it seemed to have an effect on him, though.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, whoa, she might not be kidding.
Right.
And actually, I guess we'll sort of get to this, but it's funny because Alexis comes off as the most progressive one in the show about, Steven being gay.
Yeah.
Despite her being the one that sort of throws that word out there.
Right.
She's the character, her and, I guess maybe it's the women,
Fallon,
her and Fallon are, it's no big deal, whereas the men are a little bit, not so much.
Right. And right after that scene, I think we get the... I'm guessing what was the big surprise to you, and certainly a big surprise to me, one of the guest stars. We meet Chris.
Indeed, Chris, Steven's lawyer, Steven's boyfriend.
Yeah.
And we swear that we did not, I did not know this when we picked this episode. It was just a fortunate coincidence that Chris is played by our man, Grant Goody.
That's right.
Wow.
Sporting a polo t-shirt.
Boy, this was a stunner to me.
Yeah.
I just was not aware of the fact that Grant Goody was on Dynasty.
No, me neither.
I should have been.
Yeah.
But I wasn't.
No. Yeah, I don't know why we didn't know that.
But it was Grant Goody because you've never seen him before.
Gay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, this is part of the thing. Maybe not that I was opposed to it, but I might have blocked it out because it's so unbelievable because Grant Goody was kind of like the symbol of rugged masculinity for years on Eight Is Enough.
Right.
The whole nation looked to him kind of as like the epitome of, okay, this is the suave Lothario. And for him, that's how you can tell what a master actor he is because he apparently, I've seen one episode here, but he apparently got away with it playing a guy that was not chasing after all the women, was not attracted and attracting to all the women in Sacramento.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's acting.
Yeah. So he called the sanitarium because he knew Steven was going to get there, and basically something happened. I didn't follow, and I could have rewound. It's like the nanny's sister got in an accident or some deal, and he's taking care of the baby.
Right. Grant Goody was taking care of the baby. Chris.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Very unusual, by the way, that he's called Chris and not Christopher, because as in popular culture, one of the signifiers of someone having a different sexual orientation is going by their full name and not their nickname. So
really?
I think that's what. Yes.
I wasn't aware of that
have we
convention.
We've not talked on the show about when For Better or For Worse, the comic strip introduced a character.
Oh, we talked about it off air.
His name was Lawrence.
Right.
Not Larry. Lawrence.
Right.
Clearly a signifier for the audience. So this was a Dynasty with a refreshing change from that convention, going with just Chris instead of Christopher.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Steven is going... Steven.
See, there you go. Yeah.
Although I was interested to see they were using the less pretentious V spelling for Steven.
Yeah.
Like I was typing notes and assuming it was a PH, and then it wasn't.
Yeah. Well, Dynasty in some ways did confound our expectations.
And then there's another Alexis scene with some dude named Hess, who's I'm guessing he's like a PI or a fixer of some kind.
Yes, I'm trying to think, visualize which actor was playing Mr. Hess.
Well, he had a loud jacket on.
Yeah.
Because she gets in a dig at that. Yeah, just a middle-aged guy. I don't know. And he talks about how helping her with previous issues. He's got some debts. He needs $45,000 right away.
Well, who among us hasn't been in that situation?
Right.
You know, you get some things you need 45 G's right away, so...
Yeah, that's pretty normal.
Yeah.
And somehow he doesn't know who he's dealing with.
Well...
Because she doesn't even give it... give him a chance.
No, she's not a sympathetic ear.
And then he says, I did write down this line because his particular threat. You're going to regret this. Oh, how you're going to regret this, lady. That'll be number 4 on the list, I think. Got Mark, Blake, Adam, Hess.
Yeah. One of my early predictions about what happens in season 4, I predict that she's not going to really regret that. I just don't see that happening. I could be wrong, but...
I get the sense that Alexis doesn't regret anything.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think she's going to be fine
Well,
without that long term.
Maybe something at the end of this she might regret. But,
that's true. Yeah.
Assuming she makes it to season 4.
Yeah, that's something we'll have to find out.
Then we get this thing with Adam talking to like a doctor who's at a convention at the hotel. There's something about him that he had experimented with drugs and had a breakdown and is trying to keep it secret, and there might be after effects or something. And it seemed all like foreshadowing to him.
Yeah, I think it seemed a little foreshadowing, a little exposition there.
Yeah.
It was kind of a bizarre scene. It seemed that scene to me seemed a little contrived.
Right. I think, I got the implication that if we had seen more, we would have, previous episode would have understood that scene more.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption.
Yeah. And Fallon comes up and Adam leaves, and then the doctor tells some story about how Adam's a great lawyer and figured out that in his first case that his client had been poisoned by something called mercuric oxide.
Yeah.
And he walks away, and Fallon stares off into the distance, and some suspenseful music plays, and I assume that means something.
Yeah, it's some kind of momentous revelation for her, but...
Right. A Joycean epiphany.
Yeah.
That again, if it were a comic strip, we might see a thought balloon about.
True.
But it's not.
I'm just trying to figure out if by Joycean epiphany you mean Joyce DeWitt or... because she had a lot of those on Three's Company, too. When she realized that the assumption she'd been making the whole 25 minutes before turned out to be a false assumption, and it was all a big misunderstanding.
Yeah.
That would be a classic Joycean epiphany.
You got me. I think after that we have a classic split-screen television or telephone conversation.
I gotta love those, yes.
Yeah. Between Alexis and Crystal. And Alexis says Stephen wants them to meet at his cabin to discuss the baby. Danny.
Yeah, I guess that's neutral ground for them or something.
I guess.
It seems like a thing to do.
Crystal seems dubious of that.
Head out to the cabin.
Whole thing.
So,
I guess it's part way to the sanitarium, and he's going to meet them halfway, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What better way to hash it out than in a cabin?
And we learn, other regular viewers probably knew that Sammy Jo is Crystal's niece and maybe the mother of this baby.
Yeah,
it seemed like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
because Crystal's a stepmom of Stephen, but otherwise she wouldn't have a vested interest. I think so, because the Alexis says something about that baby having both of their blood in it.
Okay. Yes, she did comment that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway,
we can only speculate, but I think you're right.
It's clear Alexis is up to something still, I think.
Yeah, that's a good bet as well.
Yeah.
Well, then we go back to Blake, correct, and talking to Neil, the politician.
Oh, I think so. I think there were a couple. There was a Mark in Alexis scene, I think.
Oh, okay.
And he barges into her apartment and basically he threatens her again.
Well, something about having a mustache. You can pretty much barge in everywhere
Yeah.
you go. It's like a gold key to many places.
There was something about them having slept together and him wanting to tell Fallon the truth that Alexis initiated that or something.
Yeah, he was trying to. That seemed to be his big piece of leverage.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that was such a big deal.
Well, I guess if your mom, I inferred that he had been involved with Fallon at the time, and then maybe Alexis slept with him. And Alexis is her mom,
right? Well, that is a big deal. Yes.
Yeah, that would be.
I mean, I guess I was thinking more of the terms that Mark's not involved with Fallon anymore. Apparently,
No.
But yeah, I guess that would kind of upset her if she found out about it. But it would be.
I guess maybe Alexis thinks, or Fallon thinks Alexis was taken advantage of somehow.
Alexis thinks Fallon was taking advantage.
Fallon thinks Alexis was, and the truth is that Alexis was doing the advantage taking.
Yeah, Fallon must not be very smart if she thinks that. We can tell from watching like 20 minutes of this that nobody's taking advantage of Alexis.
Right.
Certainly not a guy with that kind of mustache.
Yeah.
Maybe with a beefier mustache, maybe, but no, not
Right.
this guy. Sorry.
Lee Horsley, maybe.
Yeah. Tom Selleck, easily.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we get that scene with Neil, who's a politician, seems to be maybe drunk or something.
He's troubled. He's got his own issues.
Yeah, he would be number 5 on the list because he apparently tried to strangle Alexis.
Yeah, it's
And
you know,
that I guess that's the cause of his. He's been kicked off the ticket by his party.
mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, they don't mention which party.
No, Blake wants to help him, or
just
he
refer to as the party.
Yeah, he wants Blake to help him.
Yeah,
And Blake doesn't have that. Says he doesn't have that much power with the party.
yeah. Well, the party's the party.
Yeah.
What can you do? But and then he's like, well then, Blake, why don't you just let me strangle her then? If you're gonna be like this about it, why don't you just let me go ahead and strangle her? And he's like, he's got this wistful look. He's like, why couldn't I have just strangled her when I had the chance? Why didn't you let me do that? And he says it with conviction.
Yeah.
And this is, by the way, Paul Burke, a veteran actor who is in a lot of TV and was on The Naked City way back in the day. So he was, to me, kind of an interesting actor that they had in the cast here that I had no idea he was involved with Dynasty. But
Right. I didn't recognize him, but he was pretty good at playing a sweaty, slightly crazy dude.
yeah, well, Alexis seems to infuriate many men.
Yeah. And Blake says something, why don't you go get cleaned up or something, and he has a weird, yeah, I got stuff to take care of.
Yeah, like strangle Alexis.
Right.
No, didn't mean that. Don't go strangle Alexis. Oh, I thought you said get cleaned up and strangle Alexis. Sorry.
Yeah. Laundry. Clean the bathroom. Strangle Alexis.
Yeah.
Get dinner.
Yeah, wait, what was that third one again?
Buy Alexis.
No.
Those don't exist yet.
Yeah. Get dinner? No, it was before that one. Strangle Alexis. What? So, but it does establish that Blake is a pretty powerful guy.
Yeah.
Now, it's possible that he really does have the power within the party, but he just doesn't want to do this for this guy,
Right. Because he doesn't answer, why didn't you let me strangle her? Which suggests maybe he has mixed emotions about Alexis.
Yeah.
And Alexis keeps bringing that up, the whole Lily Pond thing is you didn't stand up for Crystal.
Right.
At the scene at the Lily Pond.
Yeah.
And,
she enjoys bringing...
that's how I know you don't love her anymore.
Right. Yeah.
So maybe he doesn't.
Maybe he loves both. Maybe he still has feelings for Alexis.
Wow. Yeah. I could at the very least, I could see having mixed emotions about her.
Oh, yeah? Is this kind of a Betty Veronica kind of thing here?
Yeah, that could be a Betty Veronica thing. I just see, are you angry at her? Are you really angry at her? Are you like Neil?
Yeah.
Or are you just kind of annoyed?
Yeah. There's a little bit of a difference there.
Yeah.
Neil took it way too far.
I think so, yeah.
I didn't even see what he's talking about, but
Right.
strangling her, not cool.
No, but it could be a Betty Veronica kind of thing, too.
Yeah, I'm not really familiar with how evil Crystal was throughout the course of the show, but...
It seems like, based on this episode, that she's sort of the goody.
Yeah, and Alexis is more the dark side, but...
Yeah.
She's got, Joan Collins is something else, and she's got that accent.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, Joan Collins was the big star. I was never a big fan of Linda Evans.
Yeah.
Well, and she was fine on, Big Valley, and had been around for a
Right,
long time
yeah.
on a lot of TV. I guess Linda Evans was more of a TV presence than Joan Collins was before this show. Joan Collins
Yeah.
was more in like kind of lower grade movies and things like that, right?
Right. Yeah, I
mean,
don't,
she
I don't
had
know
been on
much
TV,
of.
but
I mean,
not
Star Trek's a famous
yeah,
one. A lot of people know, but
right. But as far as like a series regular, I don't know if she was on that.
yeah, this may have been her. Sort of. Well, I'm 50 now.
Yeah.
Let's go do this.
I mean, for women of a certain age, even back then, that was kind of, and that's something remind us later on. I want to talk about the demographic dynamic going on here. But
Okay. I think maybe the butler scene is that. I just have the incident at the Lily Pond.
before that, we have we meet Kirby. I think right before the Alexis and Joseph. The Alexis and the butler.
Okay.
Joseph's like the major,
yeah.
the head of the household. And I think right before that is when we actually see Kirby, and she talks to Adam.
Oh, right. The first season. Right. Yeah. And they have some sort of past.
Yes.
He clearly he kind
it's
of
not
makes
a
a
good one at
move
all.
on her, and it doesn't seem good. And then she's like tells him she's pregnant.
Yeah.
And then we have the thing with Joseph, and I guess Kirby is Joseph's secret daughter or something.
Yeah, apparently.
And Alexis is using that against him,
Yeah.
like it'll somehow hurt Kirby.
Yeah. But Joseph isn't getting what he wants either.
No,
A lot
I
of
don't know.
people,
What does he want?
I'm not exactly sure, but there's a lot of people making these threats against Alexis.
Yeah, he's number 6.
Yeah.
Fallon goes to the hospital, and apparently Jeff had been poisoned at some point, and she asked the doctor if it could have been that mercuric oxide. And he's like, well, I got to go do surgery, but maybe.
Yeah. That's have to do for now.
Right. Like, okay.
Seems like a reasonable question to ask.
Again, I'm sure this is important if you know the show.
Right.
And there was somewhere in there is the financial bit too, where Blake wants to give Danny the same number of shares that he gave to little Blake.
Yeah.
And his financial dude says that's not a good idea, because then Stephen, if he wanted to, could give those shares to Alexis, and Alexis would basically have control of the company.
Yeah. Like, things like estate planning were real big in these primetime soaps, weren't they, back in the 80s?
Yeah.
It was all about, like, succession and
Right.
legacy and leaving things in your will
Yeah.
for people that, really weren't considered old even back then, but
Right.
this is, like, a big deal. Which is kind of weird when you think about it, like, somebody who's, like, 50 years old talking to her, like, son in her 20s about her and making that a big threat. It's
Yeah.
like, well, it's not like she's terminally ill or something like that.
Right.
You got time to work this out.
Yeah.
But that's like the big leverage they have. So like
but
writing him out of the will, not even
Yeah.
like you can understand if it's like I'm going to take away your allowance or
Right, your trust.
get rid of your
Yeah.
stipend. Yeah, but it's like no, I'm going to change the will around so that when I die in 20 or 30 years,
Right. Or wait, Joan Collins just died like last year, right?
the real Joan.
Yes. I'm just pretending her character is the same age, and
Yeah.
so yeah,
So
it's like 30 years, man, more than 30 years, but yeah. Anyway, you're right. Estate planning was big even back then.
it really was, yeah.
Yeah.
With these sprawling family dynasties, because that's another big thing about these primetime soaps. They're all built around a family. That's kind of like the center of it. I
Right,
think
yeah.
Falcon Crest was the same way. You'd have this clan, extended clan, like often feuding with another one and being intermingled, and that seems to be what's going on here too.
Yeah. So the guy he's talking, do you think he's like a consigliere, or is he just his financial advisor?
Is this? I think this is one of the other Peter Richmond. I think.
Yeah.
Who was on? I've been watching some of him on Kane's 100, like a show back in the '60s. So again, it was like weird that all these people kept popping up. I got the impression he was more like a consigliere, like not just that he was kind of like an advisor and
Right. And they're definitely friends too, because he has some. He definitely gives him advice later that a financial advisor probably would have liberty to give.
Yeah. He knows. He seems like the kind of guy that knows where all the bodies are buried.
Yeah.
He probably knows if it's real hair or not on John Forsythe's head. If anybody does, it's that guy. But,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he's not just a financial advisor.
He's got a good head of hair too.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
I assumed it was real too, but
I recognize him. He's got a steely look.
yeah, an interesting face, an interesting
Yeah.
actor. Yeah.
Yeah. after the Kirby scene, we get the John Forsythe, Grant Goodeve scene.
Yeah.
Intense.
Yeah. Oh. Like Ali Frazier in the 70s. Seeing these two share the screen together. It's kind of all about what's said and what's not said.
Yeah.
Actually, it's more about what's said, really.
It is. It's pretty clear.
Yeah.
About as clear as it could be.
Yeah.
And later, he was very clear about it to the financial guy. But do you think Goodeve was preparing for that scene and he called DVP up just for some advice?
Yeah, like how to play it, and
because they were probably in something together.
I would
or at
like
least
to
knew
think
each
so.
other.
Yeah. It's like, I got this big showdown with John Forsythe. How should I play this?
Yeah.
I'm sure DVP gave him impeccable advice.
Yeah. Be a little surprised, be a little hurt, but kind of play it cool.
Yeah.
That's about how he did it.
And
I mean, he's a lawyer. The character's a lawyer, so he was able to he wasn't totally intimidated.
Right.
Plus he's Grant Goodeve.
And he probably also told him, don't go to the net on your second serve right away, Grant, because somehow I'm sure he got it into tennis somehow.
Right.
But, well, whatever was said, we see the results of it in this scene.
Yeah.
One of the more dramatic scenes of the episode, I dare say.
Yeah.
So Blake Carrington is not the most progressive grandfather
No.
in Denver, I would say.
Yeah, I guess he showed up to visit the baby.
Mm-hmm.
He was surprised Grant Goodeve was there. He put the pieces together of why he was there. He just moved in that night, or the day before, and he's his friend and his lawyer.
You're awfully familiar with this place, aren't you? Yeah, he saw how much Chris knew his way around the place already.
Yeah, and he does not like the idea of Chris taking care of the baby.
Yeah.
He seems to be begrudging. He's not totally okay with any of it, but that's the main sticking point.
Right.
And then, in a twist for this episode, Stephen threatens Blake instead of someone threatening Alexis.
That's right. Yeah, it is an interesting change of pace, isn't it?
Yeah. And basically, just kicks him out.
Yeah, Stephen's mad. He doesn't appreciate his dad's reaction to the situation.
Right.
Yeah, gives him the old heave-ho.
Yeah, good, and he's standing up for Chris.
Yeah.
For Goodeve.
I'd like to think that if Chris had the chance to sing, maybe Blake would have felt differently.
Right.
Can you imagine the lullabies that Chris would have sung to the little kid?
I can imagine one for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That, I think, would have made this whole thing a moot point. Blake would have been, okay, well, I stand corrected.
I don't think Blake would have understood the line about dimes at all.
No, he would have had the same issue that we did.
And probably just scoffed at the homemade wishes on the window.
That would be a great scene in season 4. Like, I love that song, but there's one problem I have, son. Yeah, what did Chris mean about the spending our lives like dimes? Especially a guy of John Forsythe's, wealth and distinction. He wouldn't have any. He wouldn't know what that was.
He doesn't know what a dime is.
No, he doesn't. He's never seen one.
Or at least the last time he used one, it had a different president on it.
Yeah, it did. The only time he knows dimes is when he's in his money bin and he's throwing them up and they land and hitting him on the head.
Wait, does Scrooge McDuck have a lucky dime?
Yes, he does.
Yeah, he does,
yeah. John Forsythe, I don't know, or Blake Carrington, who knows? Yeah, and you're right, the plate of homemade wishes.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be so base as to have a homemade plate of wishes, let alone on a windowsill.
You just go buy your wishes.
Yeah, exactly. Have the help go to the store and get some.
Right. The wish store.
Yeah. Or just buy the wish store.
Right.
There's a big merger.
Yeah.
Merge Carrington Oil with the wish store.
Yeah, I feel like Carrington Oil must already be diversified.
Yeah, a big sprawling conglomerate.
Yeah. Or is it like Denver Carrington or Carrington Denver?
Something like that. Yeah. Denver's in it. Yeah. They probably are into I like to think they have totally unrelated interests, or at least they probably own like a TV station in that market.
Yeah.
But
ski lodge.
Yeah, exactly. They've got everything: hotels, broadcasting.
Yeah. Yeah, I assume they own that hotel.
Yeah.
I mean, why would Fallon be working?
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Other than fulfillment, of course.
Yeah, not that Fallon,
What's more fulfilling than doing whatever she does at that hotel.
Yeah, I'm sure there's not much.
Managing it, I don't know what she's doing.
So really, buying a wish store seems like a natural move for Blake.
And of course, then closing it.
Yeah, closing it.
Warehousing all the wishes. No wishes for anyone else.
Yeah. You think like Phil Rizzuto would do commercials for the wish store? What a shame it would be, though, if he shut it down and we were deprived of all those great Phil Rizzuto wish store commercials. We're making light of a serious situation, but
yeah,
there's some real family tension going on.
It is, yeah.
And Chris is kind of, I guess he's, what can he really do in this situation?
Yeah. He is a lawyer, though, so...
He can sue somebody.
Yeah. At least, that's probably a good idea if you're looking at a custody battle to be maybe involved with a lawyer.
Yeah.
Or this kind of custody battle.
Well, they say that a man who represents himself has a fool for a client.
That they do say that, yeah.
So, they don't say it about Grant Goody.
But a man who represents his boyfriend has a boyfriend for a client.
Yeah. And a father who's very rich and has a son that's involved with his son's attorney.
Yeah.
He's got some serious thinking to do. I think they say that as well.
I think they do, yeah. Yeah, I'm going to skip a scene. We'll come back to the scene in between. But since we're on this subject, basically he has a conversation with the consigliere guy. And he says he's going to sue for custody of the kid.
Yeah, Blake is, yeah.
Yes, because he won't let two gays raise a baby. And the consigliere is trying to talk him down.
Yeah.
Because of just all the problems, the personal problems more than that'll tear the family apart and damage Stephen again.
Yeah.
So something has happened to Stephen before.
Right.
I mean, a facelift, we know, and
yeah.
apparently. So that's the last we see of Blake in this episode. And right in between those scenes, we learn a little bit more about the Kirby situation. She goes to visit her obstetrician, who's played by Steve Martin.
Yet another surprise in this episode.
He's got an arrow through his head.
It's very unusual.
She finds out, she thinks she's only 1 month pregnant. And the doctor very cheerfully says, "Oh, no, you're 3 months pregnant."
Quite a difference.
Yeah, and how accurate the tools are. And he's very happy about the whole thing, even though she's gazing off into the distance. And,
yeah.
And flashing back to like a horrible scene, which the Adam raped her.
Yeah.
So it's, I think, Jeff's baby.
It appears as though, yes, it's probably Adam's baby.
Yeah. And of course she doesn't tell Jeff.
No, it would be a tough thing to blurt out, but I think there's going to be some serious reckoning in season 4 about this situation.
I think so, yeah. And it reconfirms what we've already been learning, is Adam is just no good.
Yeah. I like the actress that plays Kirby. I didn't recognize her.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems vaguely familiar, but maybe it's just a look.
Yeah, in fact, when she showed up in the credits, I'm like, who's this? I was kind of interested to see, more of this character, but
right.
She seems almost like at least in this episode, she does seem like a bit of a bit player, really.
Yeah.
Compared to some of these other things going on. She's kind of an outsider to the family, but
right.
Perhaps in season 4 we'll learn more about this enigmatic Kirby.
Yeah. I remember the John James guy being kind of a big deal.
Really?
I don't know where, or again, why. He was on magazines or something, or Entertainment Tonight again, or Battle of the Network Stars, something.
Right.
Just being around.
Yeah.
He looks a little bit like a thin, like Kevin Sorbo. Like, not that Kevin Sorbo's fat, but...
Right.
That same sort of light brown, big blue eyes.
Right. See that? Yeah.
He doesn't get to do much here in this episode.
No, he does not. He sort of almost bookends it, I guess, but...
Yeah.
Other than that, not much going on.
And now we're to the big cliffhanger scene.
Yeah, it's time to go to the cabin.
Every single scene here is built up to this moment.
Exactly.
Well, okay, the Alexis scenes have built up to this moment.
Yes.
So Crystal and Alexis are meeting at this cabin.
Mm-hmm.
Crystal's got like a cool like floppy beret thing on.
Yeah. Oh, good point.
Or Alexis does. And it's pretty clear Steven's not there. We know Steven's not there because he's back at home defending his boyfriend's honor.
Right.
It's clear there's like some kind of setup. Surprise. And basically, Alexis, she offers Crystal or $1 million, a cool $1 million to get out of town.
Yeah.
Like she makes the point we made. Why do you need to stay here?
Yeah. That's a pretty good offer, actually.
Yeah. Crystal's response is to call her a master of disgust.
Master of disgust. Yeah. That's a
I think
title I've never heard before.
Yeah, I think Alexis was bragging about being a master of some other stuff. Yeah. More positive in her mind than disgust.
It probably sounded good for Crystal before she said it, and maybe didn't quite have the effect she hoped, but
right.
She made her point.
Alexis brings up the lily pond thing again.
Yeah, that infamous lily pond.
Yeah. And Crystal seems to have integrity. And meanwhile, while they're having this argument, we're getting scenes of a male, I would say, outside with some gasoline cans.
Okay, yeah.
Some Carrington brand gasoline, no doubt.
Lugging around that Carrington gas.
Yeah, he's just lugging it. I don't know why they're showing this. No. He's spreading it around the cabin. And then he locks the door, and then he sets it on fire.
Right.
And our two leading ladies are trapped inside this blaze. At one point, a roll of something falls on Crystal. I don't know if it was a carpet or just a giant cardboard tube or what.
Yeah. It was like a huge roll of paper towels,
right?
And they forgot to throw away the tube, and it fell on her head.
And Alexis gets trapped, and Crystal gets out, and then there's one shot of just like something. It's like this, I guess, supposed to be the ceiling or something.
Yeah, I think.
Just the whole screen is filled with fire.
Yeah,
that's really pretty terrifying. And then they cut to an outside, like kind of pulling back, like a crane shot pulling away from the cabin, and you just hear Crystal screaming.
Yeah, not good.
No. Imagine if you're into this show, and then you have to wait like 3 months.
Oh, the agony to figure out what happened.
Right. How are they going to get out of that?
There's no way.
It doesn't seem to be.
No way. Nope.
I mean, the doors are locked, the windows are locked.
Exactly.
The door might eventually burn off.
Yeah,
just wait for their moment.
If the door burns off, they'll burn off. It would be too late by that point. I'm going to assume that they both perish, and there's no way out of there. They're not magicians.
Right. Yeah.
Yep, it's over for them.
Dynasty moves on.
Yeah, season 4 will have to get new people. Maybe they'll get new actresses. I don't know. But
Blake marries Fallon.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I don't know.
You never know.
Blake marries Kirk.
No, they'll build the show around 3 characters. Mm-hmm. I'll make it 4.
Yeah.
Blake.
Yeah.
Kirby.
Uh-huh.
Steven and Chris.
Okay.
There you got your show right there.
With a recurring role from Neil.
Of course, yes. Yeah. Yes. Neil's still going on about not being able to strangle.
Right.
So who do you think is responsible for this? Do you think Neil's involved in this?
Let's go back to our suspects.
Yeah, we got a few suspects, don't we?
We've got Adam.
Yeah.
We've got Neil.
Yeah.
We've got Blake.
Correct. Oh, yeah, true.
Now, he seems to be home in Denver, but Blake clearly doesn't have to set his own fires.
Yeah. He's got access to fast transportation, too, if he wanted to.
That's true. Teleportation.
Right. Teleportation, for sure.
The teleportation closet.
Yeah. Carrington Industries is known for teleporters.
Yeah. Adam, Neil, Blake, Mark.
True.
Although I don't feel like he would want to hurt Crystal necessarily.
Good point, yeah.
But,
maybe he didn't know that she was there yet or something, so I'd leave him on the suspect list for now. I wouldn't rule him out.
Right. Joseph,
good one, yes.
And, I know there were 6. Who was the other one?
Didn't you name 6, or?
I think I named 5.
How many other characters are there? Adam?
There's Adam, Blake, Mark,
Neil,
Joseph. Maybe that's it. Yeah, let's go with that.
O.J. Simpson?
5. Fire's not his style.
Okay, yeah, true.
Yeah. Gary Coleman?
Oh, there you go.
That character?
Now we're talking. We're talking arson.
Oh, and that Hess guy.
Oh, yes.
The guy that needed $45,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, there were 6.
So, out of those, I don't think it's Mark. Blake seems a little too distracted. It's possible he ordered this beforehand.
Yeah, I don't think it's Blake, because Blake, the situation, he eliminated Crystal.
Yeah.
As well, and he seems to kind of be leaning on the fence about
Right,
it.
but he is a little like, I mean, he's basically like, she left, so she has to come back.
True.
I'm not going to woo her.
But I think
But
he still
he's not
kind of
gonna
wants
kill
her back, though.
Yeah, and he has those mixed emotions about Alexis.
Yeah, that's true.
Love her, set her on fire.
Yeah, I'd put him at the bottom of the list,
yeah.
too.
Neil and Hess seem a little bit too secondary.
Although,
Based on what we're seeing.
perhaps they're secondary enough to be expendable, which
Yeah.
would be an argument in favor of them doing it.
It could be. They could be in cahoots with someone.
Good point. You know why I rule out Neil, though? It's not Neil's style because he wants to strangle her.
Yeah, he wants
Like,
it intimate.
He's got the pleasure of strangling her, so I don't think he would do fire.
Right. Yeah.
Unless he, did it to flush her out of the cabin so he could strangle her. That would make sense.
Yeah. The old arson flush to strangle move. Yeah.
Yep. And seen it a 1,000 times if I've seen it once, Mike. But still, not likely in this case.
Yeah. And Joseph, I'm not sure about either.
Would he be able to get away from the from his buttling duties?
The house is so big. I mean, he got away to go talk to Alexis.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, that could have been an official duty.
Yeah.
The returning of the earring. Whoever it is had to either somehow have knowledge of this meeting, which no one, as far as we know, did.
Right.
Or follow.
Right.
Which the Hess guy, he's got some, presumably if he's a PI, he's got some following skills. This is what I'm thinking Adam hired Hess to do it.
Ooh, that's a good
Adam
solution.
and Adam is the biggest suspect because if she dies tonight, the will doesn't change.
Ah, boy, that's an excellent point. Excellent, Mike.
Plus, he's a creep.
That too.
Like some of these other people are just desperate.
Yeah.
He just I mean that doctor scene, implied that maybe he's a little wacky.
Yeah, like there's something wrong, like really wrong with him.
Right.
I like this. I like so Hess may have been involved somehow, but the ultimate culprit is Adam. Who's your pinpointing, and I agree with that. I like that. Let's go.
Should we find out? Should I look it up? Should we watch? Let's not watch the
Let's
next
watch it while
episode.
we're recording here. Okay,
Yeah.
folks, you're going to get a treat. You're going to get us watching Dynasty again.
Turn
for
on
50
the
minutes.
TV and the speakers and the
Well, I'll tell you what. There's some other things I want to talk about Dynasty.
Okay.
So
Let's do that.
if you want to look it up, you can. But there's some other things I want to bring up now that we've gotten through the episode and
Right.
reached the cliffhanger. I am kind of curious to see how they pull this off. So one way or another, I'm going to watch that season 4 opener.
Yeah, I think so.
And of course, now that I know Grant Goody's involved, maybe I'll stick around for more.
Yeah.
And I want to see what happens to Kirby because I have a little affinity for Kirby.
Okay. And you want to get to the end of season 5 because Emma Samms is going to show up.
Oh boy, I got a lot.
And then
of
you want to
episodes.
stick around.
Yeah, it's
I don't think the Colbys is on there.
on
Amazon. That's too bad.
The Colbys is not. The Colbys was on for several years, and the Colbys was a big hit at first, I believe, too.
Yeah.
Now Dynasty, it was on 9 seasons.
Right.
Its last 2 seasons, it was way down in the ratings.
Yeah.
So when it fell hard.
Right.
But it had a big run here.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to mention, I don't think we've really talked it. One thing that the show was famous for was its costumes.
Oh, yeah.
And again, like kind of a stereotype of the 80s, big shoulder pads, big hair, but shoulder pads I think is one of the things like the women and many of the gowns and outfits that Linda Evans and Joan Collins wore. That was kind of like a lot of the big coverage of the show too. It was like the designs.
There wasn't a lot of in this. I
No.
mean, there were no balls or,
Correct, yeah.
cotillions or anything.
Right. We didn't see, which kind of leads me into another point, is the show is known for sort of epitomizing the 80s, and you think of like lifestyles of the rich and famous, the Reagan supposedly bringing glamour into the White House and the country, and that was kind of the deal. In this episode, you see, we've talked about the Carrington Mansion, but yeah, you don't see a lot of the trappings. I guess the hotel is kind of a high-end hotel as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, you make a good point. You don't see like a big gala event.
Right.
That you would expect Dynasty to do.
Crystal is wearing like a lot of tweed kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Alexis even seems a little more casual.
Yeah, for them, they're really dressed down as a whole in this episode.
Blake does have quite the smoking jacket.
Well, that's true. But those are some of the things the show is really known for. So I guess when you watch it with a modern eye, you kind of got to go back and then think about the context of the Reagan years. And supposedly, this is maybe one of the shows like even though because we mentioned primetime soaps don't necessarily rerun well. I think if you did a montage about the Reagan years, you'd see maybe a clip from Dynasty would be a good bet to see that in there. Maybe even more so than Dallas, because Dallas, I guess, started kind of the late 70s and sort of begat Dynasty. But I don't know, if you talked about like an iconic show of the 80s, Dynasty would have to be pretty high on the list, I would think.
I think so.
But to me, like watching this, it seemed like more like, okay, you see more of the soap opera aspects of it, more of the conventional soap opera, and not so much the 1980s, except for maybe some of the references about oil and things like that. So I guess what I'm saying is this isn't necessarily one of the episodes that would lead you to that direction, like, oh, this is so 1980s and everything. To me, it's more, okay, this sums up like the primetime soap and the soap opera element, not so much the of its era element of it, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does make sense. I'm going to look this up while you pontificate.
Yes, okay.
But now this new Dynasty is throwing everything off.
Yeah.
You look up Dynasty episode guide and it's telling you the 2007. I don't want to.
Well, actually, and okay, that's the other thing I wanted to bring up too, is this new Dynasty points out how different television is now. Granted, this new Dynasty is on a younger skewing network, the CW, but if you look at the casting of it, and the casting of almost any show now, it's more loaded up with younger people and more going towards younger audience, whereas in the 1980s, even then they were aware of like the 18 to 34, 18 to 49 demographic, but they build the show around veteran actors like John Forsythe, like Linda Evans, like Joan Collins, even these secondary roles, like we talked about Paul Burke and Peter Richmond and Joseph. I mean, if you made this show today, most of these roles would be made with young people, whereas now you get these interesting veteran actors that are probably a little bit more believable. But I haven't seen the remake of Dynasty, but you can tell just by looking at the posters and the marketing that it's built around the younger people. And even characters like these lawyers and these financial advisors, they wouldn't. I think the networks would steer the producers away from casting so many older actors. So one reason it kind of shows up to me how different TV was back then. You were still in the age where you were broadcasting. You didn't have so many options. So you have a more diverse cast age-wise, and you're appealing towards the highest audience instead of narrow casting towards one demographic.
Yeah, and even like in the new one, even the older characters are played by younger. Like Grant Show is playing Blake.
Yeah,
and he's like, 50 or something.
Yeah, I actually looked this up last night. He's a little bit older than that, than I thought, but it's a different situation because he's got that tie to recent, like the 90s soaps.
Right.
So, and I imagine he's playing like 50 at most or something like that. I don't know. But
and Natasha Henstridge is playing.
Yeah, I mean.
Is she playing Crystal or is she playing.
I don't know.
Oh, she's playing one of the two. She might be playing Alexis. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so again, I think that's who it is.
Right, but regardless of their old age, they're people that I think the intent is like, well, they're older, but they're not old.
Yeah.
They're sort of like plausibly younger, maybe, if that makes sense.
Right. Whereas the younger actors are probably in the same age range as the younger actors.
Well, they're probably like in their 20s as opposed to their 30s, whereas I imagine some of these.
Right.
Like Pamela Sue Martin was big in the 70s.
Right, yeah.
As Nancy Drew. I guess she would probably be in her
20s.
Late 20s, early 30s about now, yeah.
Yeah. So, Elizabeth Gillies, who I mentioned earlier, is playing Fallon. Crystal is Natalie Kelly. She was in the Fast and the Furious Nobody Watches, Tokyo Drift.
Ah.
I mean, I haven't watched any of them. But anyway, mostly people I don't recognize. Well, Alan Dale, he's pretty cool. But yeah, Grant Show and... Nicolette Sheridan is playing Alexis.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, and she has ties to those old...
Right.
Like the 90s soaps and things, too.
Correct.
So you kind of wish they were using older people.
Yeah, although I'm not sure if there's as many interesting ones around, but...
Yeah.
That's more interesting to me than hiring a bunch of models and trying to break them out as, like, big stars and sort of pandering to, like, a younger audience.
Right, yeah.
I can understand why the CW wouldn't do that, would take that approach, but...
Yeah. And there's I think there's a lot of bigger racial demographic on the new one.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess that's the flip side of it. It's like TV has become consciously more racially diverse, but
Yeah.
also less diverse age-wise.
Right.
Like Riverdale is on right now, and
Yeah.
they sort of youthed up like a lot of the parental characters than what you might expect.
Right. And cast people who were big in the Luke Perry and Molly
Right.
Ringwald, and well, those are the two that stand out as
Right.
being names, but
Right.
people in that age range.
Exactly.
Luke Perry, of course, is 75.
Yeah. Yeah. He looks good for his age, but
He does. He always looks younger than his age.
yeah.
Okay.
So while we've been pontificating, you've got some
I
information?
did.
For us?
I haven't read this yet, so I might not give.
Should we give a spoiler alert to the people listening?
Yeah.
We're going to
Spoiler alert.
reveal who done it.
Yeah. I hope. It may take multiple episodes. The arrest. Mark Jennings saves Alexis and Crystal from the burning cabin.
Okay, boy, you had me going there.
But why was he there?
He just happened to be there. Huh?
Happened to be at this cabin?
Sounds a little fishy.
The police find there are multiple suspects, but arrest Mark.
Well,
We found multiple suspects.
yeah, okay.
Based on him being there, that's a reasonable conclusion.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I assume the police are a little bit, in this world, are probably not as good as the rich people would like them to be.
Yeah, or they're bought and paid for by the rich people.
Yes. Fallon tries to find out more about Adam's first case with the toxic chemicals, but Adam has his doctor convince Fallon of Adam's innocence.
Adam has his doctor convinced. I guess that's interesting. That doesn't
Jeff-
seem like a normal patient-doctor relationship.
Yeah. Jeff is leading Colby Co. during Alexis's absence. After finding out the story of Crystal's riding accident with the loss of her baby, Kirby goes riding on a wild horse and purposely has an accident.
This is horse riding, not like riding like she gets carpal tunnel or something.
Riding, yes, with
Yeah.
a D. Yeah. And no W. Yes, riding a horse. Riding on a wild horse. I don't know where she...
Boy.
Take me to the nearest wild horse.
Yeah, it must be nice to be super rich. To have access to that kind of money.
Mark is freed from custody as Blake comes forward with a $100,000 bail. We're into the next episode. I'm going to spoil the whole season here.
Okay.
Bail money to prove to Crystal that he is a fair person. Adam moves out of Alexis's penthouse because he feels she doesn't love him.
What? Well,
She doesn't.
that's.
In the hospital, somebody tries to kill Alexis. Joseph shoots himself.
Wow.
Jeez.
A lot going on.
Joseph is dead. That's confirmed in the next one. Joseph kills himself.
Farewell, Joseph.
Blake and Jeff find a note that he wrote confessing that it is he who set the cabin on fire for trying to kill Alexis.
Aha!
Wow. Kirby's devastated about the suicide and confides in Crystal that seems to be her deal. That she provoked the accident because the baby is from Adam. That's about the horse thing. Claudia Blaisdell is released from the sanitarium and starts another affair with Stephen. What?
There we go again.
Poor good Eve. Fallon resumes her investigation at Adam's first case when Blake sees that Stephen's gay friend Chris is living with him and Danny. He tells Stephen that he intends to fight for custody. We already knew that.
By the way, shouldn't you be reading all this as Ernie Anderson?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
That's quite all right. No, sorry.
Dynasty. I would rather hear him do that in his sitcom.
Yeah.
Dynasty? Dynasty, yeah. Anyway, we sort of know, I guess. Maybe Joseph did it.
Yeah, you think
The butler did it.
It could be Yeah, the butler did it. Well, I guess we should have known, but
Yeah. Confounding the cliche by using the cliche.
Yeah, I'm not going to let go of your theory just yet.
That Adam did it?
Right. I might have to watch the rest of season 4 to see how this plays out. Because I'm not convinced.
Adam did something.
He's
Well, we know he did something.
He did something more than just move out of the penthouse.
Yeah. We know he did something to Kirby. Seems like maybe he did something to Jeff.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're against Jeff.
He called Stephen a name, probably. Not in that scene, but at some point
yeah.
I'm sure he did.
Right, yeah. He kicked somebody in the shins.
He did.
He spit on the sidewalk.
Yeah. He
He made people eat kale.
changed lanes without using his left turn indicator.
Oh, if he drives his own car, I bet that's a everyday occurrence.
I'm sure.
Not sure he does drive his own car, but
He's a scoundrel.
yes, for sure.
But is he a murderer? I don't know. Well, so I guess we're saying that Alexis and Crystal survived the the fire. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Because Mark Jennings saved them,
that's good to know.
or
Good.
saved them from an accident he created.
Yeah, I'm still curious how Mark Jennings got out there.
Yeah, that's suspicious. He may have followed with an evil intent too.
And good on Blake for bailing him out, though, if he was innocent. If he saved him.
You know who did know about this meeting? Fallon.
Ooh.
And I know, again from our source, at some point, I don't know what season, but Fallon burned something down.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It might have been earlier. I don't know.
We've got a lot of questions, I think, for this mysterious source.
She caused an accidental fire.
Yeah.
It's like a YouTube. She knocks over a bunch of candles or something.
Well, at the very least, I have some questions to ask the source.
Yeah.
All sorts of things going on in this episode. And I'm curious about Mark and what happens to his mustache over the course of the series.
Mm-hmm.
We got the thing with John Forsythe's possible hairpiece.
Yeah.
Why the whole deal with the two Stevens.
Yep.
The ultimate fate of Grant Goodeve's character.
The two Fallons.
The two Fallons. Yes. What Heather Locklear was doing at this time.
Yeah.
What her whereabouts were. I'm not convinced she didn't have something to do with this fire.
She could have.
You know, that just seems like the kind of thing her character would
She's
do.
supposedly in New York, but she could have made a phone call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could have been. What if it was actually Heather Thomas that was in New York? And Heather Locklear was here the whole time. So it sounds like a good alibi, but I'm poking some holes in it here.
Heather Thomas was Heather Locklear's stunt double, right?
This is a very tangled web. The more we get into this.
No wonder it is addictive.
Yeah. I'm starting to get a little interested in this.
Yeah.
Now that we're making all these connections.
Do you think cocaine ever makes a appearance on this show?
That seems a little edgy even for this show.
Yeah.
I do not know. I'm trying to think if one of those primetime soaps had a big drug storyline. I imagine it would be, because you'd have to think that would be floating around in this super rich back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Okay, quickly here, which of the characters we've seen this episode, who are the most likely to have used cocaine?
Adam?
Yeah, definitely. He's number one.
In fact, that's his look.
Yeah,
it's like
exactly. Jittery
80s business cocaine user.
Yeah, he's. I'm sure he's more than just a recreational user, probably.
I would say Steven, too.
Steven kind of looks like he would dabble in that and use kind of as an excuse to get away from his troubles. But
yeah, he's got a lot of turmoil.
Because these characters have money
Neil.
and problems. Yeah, Neil, definitely. In that scene, I think Neil.
That's...
Good call, yeah. I'd put Neil number 2 behind Adam.
Right.
Yep.
I think Alexis can probably use it casually and not...
Yeah, that's probably...
You know?
Yes. I find it hard to believe that Crystal didn't dabble in it a little bit, too.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. When she was a little younger.
Yeah. Fallon probably experimented with it in college.
Possibly, yeah. That Kirby and Jeff, they seem very...
Yeah, I'd put them near the bottom of the list. Yeah. Although if Kirby is willing to stage an accident
Right.
Who knows what... She could be capable of any risky behavior.
Yeah. And, she's... Whatever her parentage situation is, and... Yeah. Maybe she goes off the deep end. She's the drug storyline.
That could be.
She doesn't seem like a party person. But,
no. What about Chris? Lawyer. Young lawyer in the 80s.
He's very fit. I guess cocaine. I don't know.
Yeah.
What that does to your fitness level. It's possible.
We at Battle of the Network shows in no way, shape, or form condone illicit drug use.
We don't.
We're talking about this merely as an exercise.
Right.
Tying into the excess of the 1980s.
Yeah. At this point, we're pretty much up to almost every character. So.
Yeah. I'm very curious. And
Blake might use, like Sherlock Holmes kind of cocaine.
Yeah.
Like snuff.
Right.
He wouldn't, I don't think, he would never dare snort something.
No, I imagine Blake is more like getting hammered every night at the end of the day.
Oh,
like
yeah.
with alcohol.
Definitely, yeah.
More of a booze guy.
Right.
And like sort of scoffing
Yeah.
at like the younger generation at Carrington Oil, like, coming into the board meetings and doing that stuff in front of him. He'd frown on that.
Yeah. He's like, one of those high functioning alcoholics.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm curious now if they did do a
Mark,
drug story.
Did we mention
Mark?
Yeah.
Yeah. We forgot him. He's up there. Yeah. Yep.
But maybe not until he got out of Ohio.
Yeah. Although, that could be a hazard of having a mustache. Harder to conceal recreational drug use if you got a bushy mustache that could show
That's
up
true.
in there.
Yeah.
You have trace elements in your
He's always got a little brush.
cookie duster. But I'm thinking probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Who knows what's going on at that La Mirage hotel?
Yeah.
I'll bet there's all kinds of weird transactions going on there.
I bet.
Well, the world dynasty is pretty interesting, isn't it?
It is.
We've discovered many interesting connections and developments.
Maybe we should do more shows where we don't know anything about them.
Yeah, it seems like the less we know about something, the more we learn. Or something like that. I mean, I guess I'd hope so, but you know what I mean.
Right.
Do you?
I don't think so.
I don't either.
Do.
Are you likely to watch more Dynasty? I think is something we've asked.
I might sample some episodes. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I might continue this trend and just watch every cliffhanger.
I think yeah, that's a pretty good idea. I think my approach would be, I think I'm just going to dabble in watching Dynasty,
Much like
because I know I can stop anytime.
right.
And they say that watching a show like this is addictive, but I think I can just walk away. I can keep it under control. I'll just
think so, yeah.
every now and then, just if I feel like having a good time, I'll put an episode on, and when I need to, I'll stop. But
Well, let me say, maybe it's the last piece. Other than the scenes with Alexis and the cliffhanger, frankly, this episode was pretty dull.
it was people standing around talking to each other.
And not in a very dynamic way.
Correct.
So, and this is the big season finale. So, is a regular episode just the dull part?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
It might. I might. That might have me not stick around that long.
Yeah, and
or
plus-
does every episode end with some catastrophe?
Yeah, and as we've mentioned, this is one of the less glamorous episodes. Probably there wasn't much glamour to this, so
Right.
yeah,
Fights.
yeah, it wasn't as showy as you might think.
I wonder if Alexis and Crystal should have been having a fight when the fire happened, like a physical fight.
I really expected that to be the case. Actually,
Yeah.
when I found out that that's what this episode was building up to, I assumed that would be what caused it.
Right.
That they would knock something over.
Yeah, the giant
You know,
paper towel tube or something.
or else that they would be sharing a crack pipe, of course, and knock that over, and then you'd have the whole cabin going up because of that.
Right.
That was my second choice, but
Yeah.
neither of those things happened.
Wow. Well, should we wrap this up or should we not? Or should we leave it up in the air?
Who knows?
Is this episode ever going to end?
I don't know. I think people will just have to tune in next week to see what happens. This episode brought to you by Colby Co. Oil Co. This episode also brought to you by the La Mirage Hotel, offering the finest lodging, dining, and amenities to support all your scheming needs. This episode also brought to you by S'mores. Join us next time for another exciting episode of Battle of the Network shows. Learn more, leave feedback, and suggest future episodes at battleofthenetworkshows.com. Follow us on Twitter at BatNetShows, and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Battle of the Network Shows.